video is over the problems that were at Station 4 that you worked on in class. In number 1, when you take a look at this, you want to look first and see if you have any distributive property to deal with. And when you look over here, you can see that on the left side, you have to deal with the distributive property. The distributive property here requires you to take 2/3 and multiply it by 3x and multiply it by 1. So normally in class what we would do is we would draw 2 blanks with an addition sign in between, and then you just put whatever is after it here and put whatever is before it over here. Now there's nothing before it, so there's nothing that's going to go in front of it. So we're just going to have a blank plus a blank on the left side, and then it equals 5. 2/3 is first of all multiplied by 3x. Then we take that same 2/3 and we multiply it by 1. So now we have used the distributive property, and we're going to multiply 2/3 times 3x. I'm going to write 3x as a fraction, since it's being multiplied by the fraction 2/3. And 2/3 times 1 is just 2/3. Over here, 2 times 3x is 6x, and 3 times 1 gives you 3. You always multiply across. And now that we have used the distributive property, we're going to look and see if there are any like terms to collect. On the left side, there are no like terms to collect. On the right side, there are no like terms to collect, so we're finished with that. And then we're going to write in our symbols. The symbols we use are variables, and then the other side is supposed to be the constants. And our memory device is just that skateboard label DC. So distributive property, collect like terms, and then you write in your symbols. So I'm going to put the variables on the left side. The constants I want to be on the right side. Over here, 6 divided by 3 gives you 2x. And I want to move this constant 2/3 term to the right side, to the constant side. To move it from one side of the equal sign to the other side, we need to use the inverse operation. So we subtract 2/3 from the positive 2/3 on the left side, and whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other to maintain equality. On this left side, we have a 2x that remains, and then on the right side, we have 5 minus 2/3. Now, like we did in class, it's helpful to write your whole number as a fraction, and then to change your fractions so that they have the same denominator. 3 and 1 could both go into 3, so we use 3 as our common denominator. So the negative 2/3 does not change. However, the 5/1 does change. We multiplied 1 times 3 to get this 3 in the denominator. So we also must multiply the 5 times 3 to get the numerator. So we get 5/13 for the numerator, and this is still negative 2/3. So when you take 15/3 and you subtract 2/3, you take 15 minus 2, and we get 13/3 as a result. So down here you write 13/3. The number that's keeping the x from being alone is the 2, and the 2 is being multiplied by the x. So we need to use the inverse operation, division. So I also divide the other side by 2 to maintain equality. On the left side, 2 divided by 2 equals 1, so we're left with 1x. On the right side, I keep, I change, I flip. So this was 2, or 2/1, and you flip it because you don't divide fractions. You got to change it to multiplication. You need to change it to multiplication. So over here, there's nothing that we can cross cancel. 3 and 1 don't have anything in common, so we're going to go ahead and multiply across. 13 times 1, you get 13. 3 times 2, you get 6. So x equals 13/6. And we're not going to take the time in this video to show how to check your work. So you should have gotten x equals 13/6. Let's also write this as a mixed number. You could have also had 2 and 1/6 as your answer. That is equivalent to 13/6. Let's move on to number 2. All right, number 2, we look first for a distributive property section. Then we're going to collect like terms, and then we're going to use our symbols to show us what to do next. So first, we're going to use the distributive property. I'm going to circle the distributive property section. And in class, we said that was the part that had parentheses, the number in front of it with the sign in front of it. That's all included in the distributive property section. Everything else is going to be copied down. The addition sign marks the start of the distributive property section. Then we have one blank plus, and then we have another blank. And then we copy down whatever's on the end. So equals 300 is what we have at the end of the problem. In parentheses, we have negative 20. This negative 20 multiplied by a negative x. And then we take a negative 20 and we multiply by a negative 3. So we're distributing the negative 20 to each piece within the parentheses. Now we can simplify. So 7x we copy down. Negative 20 times a negative x gives you a positive 20x. And then we have a negative 20 times a negative 3, which gives us a positive 60. And finally, that is all equal to 300. So we've used the distributive property. Now we're going to see if we can collect like terms. On the left side, there is a set of like terms that we can collect. Together, 20x and 7x give us 27x. And there's no more like terms that we can collect on the left side. There are no like terms that we can collect on the right side. So now we can go ahead and write in our symbols. I'm going to make sure that we put the variables on the left side, the constants on the right side. That's going to be the fastest way to do it, is to label the left side with the variable, because there's really no point to moving the variable to the right side because it is the only variable with a coefficient. There is a point, however, to moving this constant term from the variable side over to the constant side because it can be combined with the constant that's on the right. So to move something from one side of the equal sign to the other, you use the inverse operation. So in this case, it's subtracting 60. 300 minus 60, we're left with 240. On the left side, 60 minus 60 equals 0. So we are left with the 27x. Next, we're going to divide each side by 27 because the 27 is what is keeping the x from being alone. Over here, 27 divided by 27 equals 1, so we're left with 1x. On the other side, we're going to simplify. 240 is divisible by 3. We get 80. And 27 is also divisible by 3. We get 9, so we are left with 80 ninths. To make sure that you simplified it fully, think about the prime factorization of 9. The prime factorization of 9 is 3 times 3. So all we have to do is we have to figure out if 80 is divisible by 3. And 80 is not divisible by 3. So this is as simplified as it gets. Now we can also write this in another form as a mixed number. And we can think about it. 8 times 9 equals 72. 8 times 10, 8 times 9 equals 72. 9 times 9 equals 81, so that would be too much. So we're going to go with the 8 times the 9 and get the 72. And if we take 72 from 80, we'll have 8 left over, because 80 minus the 72 would give us a remainder of 8. So 8 and 8 ninths. So you could write this either way, 80 ninths or 8 and 8 ninths. And to watch the rest of the problems, you're going to have to watch part 2 of Station 4.